بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون صدق الله العظيم. Brother Saqib, Brother Justin, brothers and sisters in Islam, it is indeed an emotional moment. To be invited to speak to you today, perhaps for the first time in 20 years, on Malcolm, who is the only man to put an X behind his name. And in putting an X behind his name, he was sending such a powerful message to the slave master. A slave master who wanted to rob him of even his own name. A slave master who wanted him to become a carbon copy of the slave master. And so it was an act of defiance, unparalleled among slaves, to put an X behind his name, Malcolm X. I want to begin with a verse of the Quran with which you probably are not so familiar. It is in Surah An-Nuh of the Quran, the surah entitled Noah. And Allah tells us something about who we are as human beings, as men and as women, as men and as women. And if we want to know about ourselves, where should we look? He says, بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ وَاللَّهُ أَنْبَتَكُمْ مِنَ الْأَرْضِ نَبَاتًا. He doesn't say, وَاللَّهُ أَنْبَتَ لَكُمْ. وَاللَّهُ أَنْبَتَكُمْ مِنَ الْأَرْضِ نَبَاتًا. And Allah has created you from the earth. He has brought you forth from the earth like trees and plants. And so if you want to know about people, look at the tree. They're not all the same. Inna sa'ayakum lashatta. You are different. There are some trees which are ornamental trees, handsome men, beautiful women, like the ornamental trees. But then there are other trees which are for timber, to make furniture. And you don't take a tree for timber and send it to the beauty salon to make an ornamental tree. No. And then there are other trees which are for food, and others for fruit, and others which are medicinal. And when Allah's Messenger went on the journey through the Samawat, and he reached to the farthest point, it was a tree. But it was a tree which gave the best shade of all. Sidratul Muntaha, the lot tree. So Allah also created trees which give good shade, like an umbrella. And so men are not all the same. That women are not all the same. And we must look to the aptitude of a person to see what kind of personality would come, what kind of possibilities there are for growth, what kind of versatility there is in this child. And so, once in a blue moon, a Malcolm is born. And for a few moments today, we will look to see what is it there was in Malcolm that made him so different from the rest. But what do we say of a tree which when you cut it down, and that's what they did, and that's what they've been doing all the time since then, with their state terrorism and their Mossad assassinations of people. And an aeroplane drops out of the sky, and another American senator is dead. Another aeroplane drops out of the sky, and a president of Pakistan dies with an American ambassador on board. What do we say of a tree which they don't like this tree? So they decide to cut it down. What do you say of such a tree that every time you cut it down, it still keeps on growing? No matter how many times you cut down this tree, it just keeps on growing. That was Malcolm. And that is the Shaheed. And that was the verse with which I began. When Allah says, and the Mossad can take this and put it in his pipe and smoke it. Do not say of those who've been killed in the way of Allah, in the way of truth, in the way of justice. Don't say of them that they are dead. You can't kill them. No, they are alive, but you can't see them. There is a metaphysical application to the verse that they are alive in another world of space and time. But there is an application here that no matter how many times you kill Malcolm, Malcolm still lives. Because the truth for which he lived and died lives on. And that is as powerful a message as that any message can be delivered when we speak about Malcolm.